shipping breakout session. I know the main session ran a few minutes over, so we were waiting for a few minutes for people to join, but we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Kelly Jo McIntyre. I'm going to kick us off. I'm on the shipping team, and I'm mostly focused on the domestic side. And then I'll hand it over to Chad Stewart, who is also on our shipping team, and he focuses on the international side. I don't think there's a lot going on there, so it probably won't be a lot of questions on the international side, I'm sure. And then after we've gone over some brief updates, we'll go ahead and open it up for Q&A, and we'll be answering some questions live. So with that, I'll kick it over to the first slide we have on the domestic side. We're going to go into ship cover insurance, but I thought it might also be good to give a quick network update, just kind of more broadly on the domestic side of what we're seeing. This year, we have seen more delays than we've seen in recent years. We work closely with all of the carriers, and we monitor the space really closely. So we are making adjustments to estimated delivery dates pretty consistently. Over the last, I'd say maybe 2 weeks, we've been seeing more of an improvement in on-time performance from the carriers. So we're going to monitor this, and we're going to try to ensure that we're showing your buyers the most accurate delivery estimates. Just remember, as long as you ship within your handle by date and you have an acceptance scan, you're covered as an on-time shipment. And having said that, can you go to the next slide, and I'll kind of give a quick update on ship cover insurance. So ship cover insurance is a shipping insurance option that's available on eBay labels for USPS shipping. It allows you to add coverage over the carrier included, usually $100 for most services. It's historically, we had only offered this up to $1,000. Last year, we increased it to $5,000. And then this year, just recently, we've increased that up to $15,000 for domestic shipments. You can also use ship cover insurance for international shipments, and I believe we've increased that up to $10,000 for international shipments. So we're trying to expand this to offer it to you for more of your items and in more areas that it makes sense. Ship cover insurance, it's integrated with the label platform. When you're buying your label on eBay, you can add it right there. It has a convenient claims process. I mean, I'd say convenient for as convenient as a claims process can be. It's competitively priced, so I'd say you take a look at it when you're purchasing your labels, and it now covers higher priced items. Also, it's convenient because you can check the status of the claims like right when you're on eBay. That's all I have on ship cover, and so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Chad to give an update on international.
Oh, there we go. I think you can all see me now. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate all of your business. Happy to go through the international world. It's really been a whirlwind year thus far. So lots to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about EIS, but mostly we're actually going to talk about a little bit more about tariffs and how EIS or eBay International Shipping can support you as the international space continues to be a little bit more turbulent than we've seen in recent years. We've started to get lots of questions from sellers really around how are they going to be impacted as the tariff world kicks up. Lots of new information in the news, what seems like daily. And then while a lot of that churn or a lot of that news really impacts items coming into the United States, there's also impact as different countries look at how they want to respond, and then from there, impact on your selling business as you look to ship things outside of the United States. So really quick, just as a reminder, within eBay International Shipping, we have your back. We want to make sure that you understand the protections that are available to you as a seller. And those protections extend and cover you even during this turbulent time with tariffs and with changing duty rates and other such things happening in the macroeconomic space. If you can, when you ship with eBay International Shipping, remember your responsibility is only to get the item to our hub in Chicago. From there on, we cover all of the duties, the taxes related to that transaction. As part of, the buyer has the opportunity to see those duties and taxes in the checkout. They can pick whether to pay them or not. And then if they choose not to pay them, once the item's at the hub, there's no responsibility for you. We still take care of that transit with the buyer, and then we work with them to make sure they can get their item. If there are any questions that you're receiving from buyers, as items may be in transit to them, encourage you just to push them to reach out to eBay, whether it be online, look at our help pages, reach out to customer service. As the items got into the hub, it's our responsibility to work with that buyer to make sure they get their item. We don't want you to have to deal with those questions, because we're really in the best position to handle the situation with the buyer. And so if there's any issues that relate to either delays, negative feedback in the future, as we start to see either tariffs or other such issues occur, those are things that we want to make sure that you understand that you're protected from. And the last few months, as we've talked to sellers, we've heard more and more that people are opting out of selling internationally and opting out of eBay International Shipping because of the uncertainty and because of the difficulty in the space. And we want to make sure that you feel and understand that you are protected and that we have your back. So we're going to go into the Q&A section. We have tons of questions, some of which are for Kelly, some of which are for me. We're going to try to alternate, and just depending upon the bulk of the questions.
I don't know. I have a feeling international might be a hot topic right now.
This is what I'm hearing. Let me start, since I think the team's teeing up questions to us, and I think I have a list of like 6, and I don't know, Kelly, how many you have so far?
I think that means the domestic side is clear and everything's going perfect.
Good for you.
Go for it.
So I'm just going to go down a couple of questions really quick, and then I can hand over to Kelly and she can answer a few. So between the last session and this session, we've had a number of questions already. One question we got was, some sellers see where they try to ship they're getting questions from buyers in the EU where they're trying to ship, particularly in the motors category, P&A and other such automotive parts, particularly to Germany, maybe the Netherlands. And then they're getting questions from those buyers on why can't I buy from you? Why can't I see your items when I go to buy? I can see them from other sellers, but I can't see them from you. And why? Within the program, we control where those items are legally allowed to go. And so we're restricting or controlling visibility of those items based upon the regulatory environment for, number one, what can leave the United States, and then number two, what can't actually enter that country. In particular, Germany is very, very restrictive, particularly on auto parts. And so we've seen, we want to comply with the regulatory environment for imports. That means that in some cases, we're not going to allow those items to go. Now, it's possible you may have not experienced issues in the past. I would caution that just because you didn't experience an issue one time doesn't mean you won't. And so we're trying to make sure that we comply with the regulatory environment for the import country. That way we can continue to ship there without problems. If you really want to ship to countries that we don't support for specific items, one option would be that you could add a self-ship service to your listings that we won't ship to certain countries. That would allow the buyer to still see and buy the item. I would just caution you that you won't get the protections of eBay International Shipping. And so if it does get stuck in customs, if there's a problem with the transit, we won't be able to protect you in that circumstance, but at least you will be able to complete the transaction. Another question we frequently get is what happens when my items go to your hub, eBay? I put so much care and so much focus on making sure that my items are packed delicately, that they're presented well for the buyer. What are you doing? I think we've mentioned multiple times, we reserve the right, when an item is shipped to the program and it gets to our hub, we reserve the right to open it and inspect it. We're doing so not because we want to damage the item, change the presentation. What we want to do is ensure that it's compliant with the export regulations of the United States and then the import regulations of the destination country. It's to ensure the item actually gets through. We take every care to repackage it the way that you packaged it. We also only open a small percentage. And so we're looking specifically for things that we may have concerns about. And in that, and when we do this, we also track for items that we open, how do they have a correlation to damage, and we see very, very little correlation to that. So we will continue to do that, but we will continue to make sure that we are taking care as we open your items. Kelly, is there anything on your side that you want to answer?
Yeah, there's a few questions. So I was wrong. Not everything's perfect on the domestic side. And I want to bring up a question that Ginger mentioned, asking how we protect sellers if USPS is delayed. As I shared, we are seeing more delays this year than past years. We do extend estimated delivery dates and we make adjustments with the most recent data we're seeing in the network, but that doesn't mean that items aren't getting stuck in transit for even longer times. And in this case, Ginger shares that she had lost 2 packages and had 2 return requests. And how do you handle the claim when a buyer comes in? A buyer can open a claim on the first day after the estimated delivery date. And you correctly call out, you have 3 days to respond to the claim. I do want to share that if you have tracking in the last 7 days that shows that that item has been in transit, we will put that claim on hold for an additional 7 days to give more time for an item that's lost to start moving again. When a package is truly lost and it doesn't get delivered to the buyer, we would expect that you would refund the buyer for the claim, and then you can go file a claim for your covered insurance cost with USPS. Or if you added ship cover insurance, you can file a claim with ship cover if that item ultimately ends up getting lost. I do know that there are a lot of frustrations for sellers when items are delayed more and we don't get the estimated delivery dates right. I promise we're trying to react as quickly as we can to a very ever-changing environment, and we'll continue to monitor this really closely. And as I shared before, work really closely with the national carriers on what's happening. On to you, Chad.
Yeah. Some additional questions on the international side. So several questions on when will, I don't see EIS or eBay International Shipping available to me yet. When will it be available? We control the availability of eBay International Shipping to sellers. We do about a monthly opt-in based upon criteria on the selling account. You can find that criteria on our Seller Center page or on the help page that gives you an idea of what makes my account eligible for eBay International Shipping. One of the criteria is you do have to meet a minimum number of sales. And then as sellers meet that minimum number of sales, right now it's 10, we are then monthly extending an invite to eBay International Shipping to additional sellers to be able to come into the program. We're in the process of doing another ramp on that right now. So if you're not currently eligible, we may be extending an invite to you in the next couple of days. Thereafter, if you have any questions or if you feel like you definitely should be in the program, you can feel free to reach out to us at the eBay shipping team at ebay.com, and we'll take a look. But as I said, the minimum sales is just one factor. There's others. Take a look at the help page for EIS and you can confirm. One other question, we've got a couple on APO and FPO address as well as Alaska and Hawaii. So you guys may remember we opened the eligibility of the service to buyers in Puerto Rico last year, just due to a number of competing things that we're trying to work on to make the service better. We were still working on extending the service to Alaska and Hawaii. We haven't quite been able to execute against that expansion. And right now, I'll be honest, with a bunch of the things that we're doing in the tariff world to make sure that you're protected, that we're ahead of the game, it may be a little bit more time before we can get there. We definitely want to make those expansions. It's just a matter of time. So watch for updates on the Seller Hub. And once we can actually expand the program to those additional buyers, we definitely want to do it. I just don't know an exact timeline right now.
Great. There's a question about eBay always looking for the best prices possible for shipping, and will we ever partner with Amazon Shipping to give cheaper prices? I would say yes. We are always, not yes, we will look at partners. Yes, we are always looking for cheaper prices. We're always looking to get sellers the best prices on eBay labels that we possibly can. We are constantly looking at additional carriers that may make sense to add and additional services. And we'll keep doing this. I won't say we're going to partner with Amazon Shipping, or yes, we're going to partner with another carrier, but I'd say yes, we're going to continue to look for any options we can to reduce prices for sellers for shipping.
Okay. Question on the Mexico tax ID. So I think there was an email that went out a couple of weeks ago, or there was an announcement that went out as part of the most recent seller update, where Mexico is now requiring tax ID from buyers, and you need to be able to provide the buyer email. When your buyer completes a transaction, we don't give you the buyer's email, but we give you a masked buyer email that will allow, essentially, we don't show you their exact email, but we show you something else that will redirect to the buyer. So if customs does need to reach out to that buyer, using that masked email will get the email to the buyer so that they can then pay duty and taxes as appropriate. In an EIS transaction, when the buyer goes to check out, we actually ask for their tax ID, and then we take that information and we just populate it in the order details. So we do all of that for you, and we manage the communication. And so we're trying to streamline that as much as possible. The challenge being that some of that information, the tax ID, similar to our tax IDs in the US, are protected information, so we can't provide all that information to you, but we can streamline it for Mexican buyers when we do those transactions through EIS.
Great. Jen asked about the FedEx calculator and that it's not always correct for shipping charges, and it's known that people are often charged large amounts after the fact. And do we have any plans to fix this? Our calculated shipping does take into all the factors that FedEx has, including the surcharges for additional handling based on the weights and dimensions that the seller inputs. But you're right, FedEx and other carriers can come back with a charge that's larger after they assess the package. A lot of times their assessment's right. It could be a rounding issue, but that doesn't mean carriers don't make mistakes. And when they do make mistakes, we do want you to report these to us, and we will dispute these charges, and we'll work to get it corrected for you. I'll tell you one common thing we see on why the charges end up being incorrect is like when packages get stacked on top of each other when they're going through the machine to be weighed and dimmed. It's not entirely uncommon. And so if that's the case, like, we have a team that goes through this and pulls all the details and information together to dispute it for you. So like I said, please do share these with us. And we are working with the carriers to try to reduce the friction in this space as much as we can also. But appreciate the feedback.
Couple of questions in the chat about buyers seeing additional charges at checkout. So I mentioned that when your buyer purchases through EIS, they get the choice of whether to pay duties and tax, or what we now know as tariffs in the US from all of the news. When we offer what's called a duty paid service or a duty unpaid service, lots of terms you don't necessarily need to know. But we're trying to give buyers the choice of, do they want to streamline their transaction and the delivery of that shipment up front? And so when a shipment, when a particular listing does not have any other shipping services available on it other than EIS, we show to the buyer a option that allows them to pay the shipping up front, or sorry, the duty and tax up front or later. And so during that transaction or during that checkout, they would be able to see what the potential duties and tax would be if they elect not to pay it. And then they get a guaranteed cost if they do pay it up front. And so in that particular situation, we're giving the buyers clarity of what the import charges would be. And then they get if they do elect to pay it up front, it's a very streamlined process. Goes through customs much more quickly. It allows us to ship it with different carriers, but all of that is disclosed to the buyer up front, and then there's no additional charges. And that's one of the value props that we offer to the buyer as part of the program, in order for them to be able to ensure that they have they can see all of the costs with the transaction. Couple of questions on size of packages for EIS. I was just doing the quick math. I think this question comes from Donna just a few moments ago.
You did that math.
Yeah, I pulled out my phone to do the math really quick. So the first package that you put in, Donna, the 18 by 8 by 16, that one should actually be eligible. When I did the math to do the volumetric weight, it only came out to 13, or just it came out to 14. So that one should definitely be eligible. We right now we're doing volumetrically, length times width times height divided by 166 to get to a max of 44 pounds for everywhere but Canada. And then Canada, we do up to 66 pounds volumetrically. Now, the first one should definitely be eligible. We can take a look at some of your account. If you, again, email us at eBay shippingteam@ebay.com, and we can take a look at the account, a couple of listings to see what's happening. The other one, when I did the math, it came out about 46 pounds, the 24 by 18 by 18. Now that one should be eligible to Canada, but not the rest of the world. We have looked at expanding the size of the program, but again, prioritization wise of trying to, like, things that sellers are asking for, to this point, we prioritize really trying to go after combined shipping, being able to get specific different items added to the same cart at more economical rates. And then we've looked at a couple of other, we prioritize first a couple of other initiatives. This is one that I'll make sure I go back with the team and we look at again. Can we look at these bigger packages, and we'll follow up.
Great. There was a question about showing delivery to a buyer, showing 2 to 4 days, and that some sellers have 3 days to ship. I mean, I will tell you that we'll never put a max estimated delivery date that is before the time that you state that you are going to ship. But we are using a model that's looking at, things like what is the seller's behavior, what do you actually typically ship with on a service, and what's going on in the network, and what we're seeing on like zip lane pairs. And that's where that estimate comes from. I would say keep in mind it's looking at the location of the buyer that's looking at the listing. So sometimes if you're looking at your own listings, you're always a local buyer, but that doesn't mean that we're not showing 2 to 4 day delivery on items that are shipping across the country. And generally when that's shown, it's because that's what we're seeing in that space. Do you have another one, Chad, or you want me to go on?
I don't. I'm actually, as the team serves up questions to you, I'm loving that all the questions are now for you.
I like it. So there's a question about when a USPS package is lost or damaged, can the buyer file the insurance claim with USPS, or does the seller have to do this? Generally, you can file, both buyers and sellers can file claims when there's like a damaged package, and I think sometimes a lost. Anybody on our team chat, please correct me if I am misstating that. But I would say that as a seller, you should file a lost package claim. Even then, there was another question that was, if the item shows delivered, can you still file a claim? And I would say yes, you should still file a claim with USPS to have the package investigated, because they do have GPS coordinates for delivery, and they could also see if maybe it was misdelivered or if there was another issue that occurred with the package. So as a seller, I would say yes, file a claim even if it shows delivered.
All right. I'm just going to look through some of the more recent questions too.
Oh, I think, okay, so another question came in about the 2 to 4 days, but we may need to ask you to send us some more information on this, because the question says you can offer same day, 1 day, and 2 day free shipping for items, but the rate tables are always reflecting 2 to 4 days. Rate tables are different. If you're setting your shipping speed in a rate table, that's actually the seller sets the speed, and we're always going to show for the regions that you said. And so I don't know if we're actually talking about rate tables, but if somebody from the team can just reply in there where to send some examples, we can take a look into it a little bit more. Because we won't change your shipping date if you're using rate tables and setting it on your own.
Couple of follow-up questions from one of the comments I made earlier on combined shipping. So with combined shipping, basically what happens is we control what's eligible to be combined in specific transactions. So if a buyer goes in and wants to be able to add item A to their cart and then item B, depending on what the two items are and how they interact, it allows us to combine them or not. So for example, if one item is an auction and one's buy it now, they end at different times in terms of how they would be shipped and how the money would be passed from the buyer. So we can't combine auctions with buy it now. We also control certain types of categories we won't let be combined. So specifically, a good example is batteries. So anything that may have a lithium ion battery. The challenge is when we ship those internationally, we put them on planes. The regulations are very strict about how much how much in terms of lithium cells can be combined into specific packages. And so it creates a lot of complexity. So for a variety of reasons, there's certain types of items that cannot be combined. Also, I mentioned buyers can pick whether they want to pay the duties and taxes up front. If they say that they want to pay the duties and taxes on one item and not another, that means that they won't be combined. So it's not so much a settings issue as much as it is the type of purchase your buyer's trying to make, as well as the way the listing is set up, that allows us to then combine those items or not. If you have questions, again, you can email us at eBay shipping team at ebay.com, and we'll take a look at a couple of examples and follow up.
All right, it looks like we're at time for this session, and there's some new sessions that are starting if people want to make their way over to any seller session breakouts that are happening now. I think we'll still have time to go in and answer some of these questions